Hello and welcome back to the Scenario 7 podcast YouTube channel. My name is Sam and this is week 15 of our F1 Fantasy Show. In this episode, we'll be looking back at how we did in the Belgian Grand Prix, talking about price changes, well, a lack of, and looking ahead to this weekend's Dutch Grand Prix, going through Matt's team and any alternatives he might look to swap in before the deadline. But before anything else, let's introduce our fantasy expert, Matt Collier. How are you doing, mate?
I'm doing good, thank you, Sam. Week 15 already. It's been a long time. I remember doing my first one of these, and time flies by. How are you doing?
Yeah, time really does fly by. I am doing good, mate. Looking forward to this weekend's Dutch Grand Prix. But before we move on to talking about that, let's look back at Belgium and see where we sit in the Scenario 7 podcast fancy table. Starting with Performer of the Week, where we look at the person with the most points from the last race. And in Belgium, it was someone with the initials DMG, who has the team name Very Much Mistaken 1 with 236 points. He used his wild card that week with Red Bull and turbo driver Sergio Perez getting the majority of his points. And that was similar to someone that we'll talk about a bit later. But now to the top of the table, and it's Andrew T. It's been Andrew T for over half of the weeks that we've been doing this show, and he retains his spot with 2,841 points. Will anyone dethrone him? That is the question. Matt, you're shaking your head. Matt doesn't think so. But Matt, let's go to your team. You're up one place to 18th on 2,519 points. Without giving much away, what did you think of your team in Belgium?
It could have been better, could have been worse. Back to traditions. Insert the Bottas meme. No, I'm only joking. That's probably the best way to describe my weekend. A traditional theme has happened again.
It is back to normal for you, Matt, unfortunately, especially this season in fantasy. Let's go to me now, and I have moved up 7 places to 33rd place on 2,340 points. And let's just say I had a very, very good week. I got 219 points in Belgium, which was the 6th best in the league for that race. And let me just run you through my team so you can see where I did well. So Perez was my turbo driver. He got me 64 points. I had Leclerc, who got me 20. Alonso got me 24. Pierre Gasly got me 16. And Kevin Magnussen got me 9. And then for the constructor, Red Bull got me 86. So, yeah, I was very happy with how I did in Belgium. And hopefully that can continue this week as I try to achieve my target of finishing in the top 30 of our league. That's where I'm aiming for now, because we've made this big leap and top 30 would be a nice goal to aim for. But let's go more in depth with last week's team. Matt, you had Esteban Ocon, who got you 14 points, Lewis Hamilton, who got you 4, Mick Schumacher, who got you 1, Alex Albon got you 10, Charles Leclerc got you 40 as your turbo driver, and Red Bull got you 86, totaling to 155 points. Talk me through your selection.
I'll do a brief summary, then I'll talk in depth as to the points. It just could have been so much better. The main letdown being the DNF of Hamilton. Lucky I wasn't the only person that had Hamilton. I believe Andrew T also had Hamilton for Belgium. So it wasn't too detrimental, but there could have been so many more points for Hamilton with his race streak that he didn't get because he DNF'd. And it cost me a lot of points, but I'll go into depth of all the drivers. Ocon got 14 points, despite starting further at the back with all the penalties. Yeah, there are so many penalties this week. It kind of meant a lot of people had maybe some lower scores than usual. But yeah, Ocon got 14 points. I was like 0.3 off Alonso, and Alonso I think got something like 26. So that very small margin cost me, I think, a fair few points in terms of that. Yeah, Hamilton got 4 points. Back to traditions of another DNF. I've only had 2 clean races this season out of 14, which is just absurd. Mick Schumacher, disappointing result. Only got 1 point. He also had penalties, but then the pace of that Haas was just absolutely nowhere. Once again, you just have no idea what you're going to get with Haas. One race they look really good, one race they look really bad. I swapped in Albon. He had a very good weekend, qualifying in the top 10 with all the grid penalties. He started P6, managed to hold off for a single point, basically because of his starting position where he fell back. He only got 10 points, but still very good drive. Leclerc's my turbo driver. Yeah, Ferrari strategy, just another error in their terms, especially with them pitting for softs and then speeding in the pit lane. Kind of just shows the gap between Verstappen and Leclerc, considering they both started at the back. But yeah, he got 40 points, and then my constructor got 86 points, totaling to 155. Yeah, not the best weekend, but as I said earlier, it could have been a lot worse.
Yeah, could have been a lot worse. So normally at this point, we go through the different price changes there have been. But in the last few days, there haven't been any. So first of all, Matt, why do you think that there has been no price changes at all this week?
Yeah, well, I think the summer break and a lot of people deploying their wild cards. Like loads of people in our league deployed their wild card. You already mentioned the performer of the week used his wild card, and yeah, it's kind of just settled the market. I think everyone's kind of got their ideal team, deploying their wild card, and yeah, there was like 20 changes in the last show. So yeah, not really much else to say. But instead of, because there's no changes, I'll basically just go through all the constructor changes that have happened since the start of the season. So basically, I'll talk about their price at the start of the season, what it's looking like now. So over the course of the season, Mercedes have gone down 0.3 million, just not living up to their expectations of being a 7-time constructor winner. Is it 8, isn't it?
Yes,
Mercedes.
time.
Yeah, 8. Yeah. I was thinking of Hamilton for a second then. Red Bull over the season have increased by 0.1 million. Ferrari over the season from the original price have increased by 0.8 million. At the start of the season, they're looking like the definite pick, but as the season's gone on, they've made loads of errors. McLaren have gone down this season from the original price. They've gone down 0.8 million. I think the technical regulations have definitely been difficult for them this season, which is why they've gone down 0.8 from the original price at the start of the season. Alpine, from the original price at the start of the season, have gone up by 0.1, so very minor change. Aston Martin over the season have gone up 0.3. AlphaTauri, they've gone down 0.3 since the start of the season. Gasly just hasn't quite fulfilled his potential in that car. Alfa Romeo, they've gone up 0.6 since the start of the season. I remember watching Bottas in Miami having a brilliant race. But yeah, Alfa Romeo have slowly declined with their reliability. Haas, over the start of the season, they've gone up 0.4. They're looking like extreme value at the start, especially with Magnussen finishing P5 in Bahrain. And then Williams have gone 0.8 down since the start of the season, and yeah, not having George Russell and that Williams kind of just shows how good of a driver he was. And yeah, they're the changes over the season for the constructors.
Yeah, it is interesting to go back and see how much these changes have happened with these teams since the start of the season. It's just, I mean, you have some teams that, as you said, up like 0.1, and then your Ferrari up 0.8. So it really is interesting to have a look at the difference. Let's now look at the team that you might be deploying this week. And of course, we need to preface this by the fact that this is subject to change, as the deadline is not until Saturday, and practice sessions can be used as an insight into how teams will perform this weekend. So first up is Fernando Alonso coming in for Mick Schumacher. He costs you some 12.7 million. Why have you made this change?
Well, I really like Alonso. Kind of wish I had him out in Belgium if it wasn't for the small budget that I didn't have. And yeah, Alpine are definitely punching above their weight and yeah, outperforming McLaren. And when you look at the prices of, for example, Lando Norris, Alonso's a really good option. And yeah, Alonso's also got a race streak this weekend. So if he finishes in the top 10, he'll get an extra plus 10 points. So yeah, that's why I've brought Alonso back into my team.
Yeah, and he's not your only change you're making this week, as Lewis Hamilton is another driver that you have replaced after just 1 week in the team. George Russell is the man replacing him at 23.8 million. Why did you decide to swap the Mercedes drivers around?
Well, the simple answer is streaks. Russell's got a qualifying streak and race streak this weekend. I hope it's not going to be a Mercedes curse or something. Hopefully, Russell can finish this race because Hamilton had a quality streak and race streak in the last race and didn't finish. So hopefully, Mr. Consistent Russell could get me loads of points. And yeah, depending on how Mercedes perform, I felt they had more pace compared to Ferrari out in Belgium. This track is kind of similar to Hungary and likes of Spain, and yeah, Mercedes looked quite strong on those tracks. So yeah, so I brought Russell into my team.
Yeah, makes sense. Alex Albon next. He keeps his place in your team. 7.6 million. Why does Albon stay?
I was kind of surprised by the change to the floor and how ridiculously quick Albon was in a straight. I don't know, maybe the change to the floor benefited Williams, and yeah, we'll have to see how Albon does this weekend. But yeah, Haas just didn't have any pace, and yeah, Albon at his price definitely looks like good value. So that's why I've kept him in my team.
Yeah, Esteban Ocon partners his teammate Alonso in your team, valued at 12.3 million. Why have you doubled up on Alpine?
The simple answer is they both have a race streak. That's the simple answer. Yeah, so Ocon's also got a plus 10 race streak this weekend. So if he finishes in the top 10, he'll get extra plus 10 points. And yeah, as I said, Alpine look really strong. They're punching above their weight and outperforming McLaren. And yeah, he had a really good race out of Belgium, starting near the back, and yeah, pulled off some really good overtakes in that race. I don't think there'll be as many overtakes this weekend, but hopefully Ocon will qualify at the front of the grid and get loads of points. That's why I've kept him in my team.
Yeah, and Charles Leclerc is the final driver to keep his place in your team and remains your turbo driver. 18.7 million. Surely, as the weeks go by and the Ferrari strategy keeps getting worse, you will be tempted to move him on.
Yeah, you're correct on that statement. I have one free change left, and yeah, that one change is very much bearing down at Leclerc, depending on the practice sessions this weekend. Yeah, it's just frustrating with Leclerc's performances, but then everyone's kind of in the same boat. And yeah, we'll have to wait and see. He's currently my turbo driver, but as you said, it can be subject to change. But yeah, he's currently in my team, but we'll have to wait and see what happens.
We certainly will. And time for the constructor, and Red Bull keeps their place, valued at 32.6 million. It's pretty obvious, but why Red Bull?
Well, Verstappen's just dominant, and yeah, Red Bull got a 1-2 out in Belgium. It's not really much else to say. That's my constructor.
Yeah, I mean, Red Bull just looks so good. They're definitely the team to keep hold of. So we've now gone through your team, but who are some alternatives that you're looking to swap in before the deadline and that people at home could potentially put in their teams?
Yeah, so on each show, I go through three alternatives. I do one constructor and two drivers. The constructor I've gone for this weekend is Alpine. They're currently priced at 14.1 million. They have a qualifying streak this weekend. So if Ocon Alonso qualify in the top 10, they'll get +5 points. And yeah, priced at 14.1 million. I think that's very good value. That's why you should consider Alpine for your teams. Then on to the two drivers. Carlos Sainz, currently priced at 17.2 million. He's got a qualifying streak this weekend, so get an extra +5 if he qualifies in the top 10. And over the last 9 races, he's outperformed Charles Leclerc 8 out of the 9. So it's something to consider. And the other driver is Lance Stroll. He's currently priced at 9.1 million. And yeah, I was looking through all of his results this season. They've all been positive results. He's had no negative results. So yeah, very consistent driver in Lance Stroll getting points, and they're the alternatives you should consider.
Yeah, some very good picks there. But that wraps up our video. I hope you found it helpful. A reminder that the deadline for changes is a minute before qualifying, so get your team finalised by then. Remember to like and subscribe, follow us on our socials, linked down below, along with our fancy league code if you still want to join. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.